This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Trou from 1960, directed by Jacques Becker. The synopsis here from our friends on letterboxd.com. Our good friends, RJ. 4 prison inmates have been hatching a plan to literally dig out of jail when another prisoner, Claude Gaspard, is moved into their cell. They take a risk and share their plan with the newcomer. Over the course of 3 days, the prisoners and friends break through the concrete floor using a bedpost and begin to make their way through the sewer system. Yet their escape is anything but assured. So, prison movies, RJ.
Yep.
I love them. They're almost always great. They're almost always pretty good to great.
What are some pretty good, great ones?
Why is that? Why are prison movies so good? Everyone loves that Shawshank Redemption, right?
Come on, you're better than this. You're better than that,
right?
Why do you like prison movies?
I don't know.
Because you like seeing men go through like hard times and men's underwear and stuff like that.
Yeah, it really appeals to my inner incel. No, it's forced celibacy.
I think maybe it's like one of those dark fantasy things because people are like, "Ooh, man, prison's scary. I wouldn't want to be there, but I do want to watch it."
Yeah, pretty much. It's it's like kind of it's because cinema is kind of always kind of talked about by a lot of people as escapist fantasy. So prison as a setting for a movie is kind of unusual because that is the opposite of an escape. But it makes sense that a prison, if you want to see it as like a metaphor for life and escaping from the humdrumness of one's day-to-day life, breaking through, you see RJ?
Break on through to the other side?
Yeah, and if you want to start bringing in that old Foucault and his views on systems and the prison of life.
What do you mean Foucault?
Michel Foucault. French philosopher of the continental type. Good stuff, man. You can read about that discipline and punishment. It's great stuff.
No, I'm pretty happy with the life I live. I don't think I need to.
That's right.
A movie here and there is all I really need to get my glance at the world behind the bars.
That's right. I'm just looking here, RJ, because you know what? On Letterboxd, I keep track of my prison movies. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Okay, so Trou. I actually even looked up on YouTube up the pronunciation of Trou.
Is it not Trou?
No, it's not Trou.
Trou.
It is Trou, and that is for the whole.
Hey, I took 4 years of French in primary school. I believe it is Trou. You got to say it with that, like,
That's that Quebecois, ugly French. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Eastern Canada.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, RJ, this movie, it's like got everything that I love. 1950s, 60s, grim, realistic, beautiful black and white cinematography. It's a procedural, European, and it's all firing on all cylinders.
How many cylinders would you say this is? Like 6?
Yeah, so it's 8.
8?
8 cylinders, man.
Shit.
And looking back the last few months, it feels like it's been a really long time since we watched like a really good movie.
It has been a really long time since we've watched a good movie.
Like it's like where you're like, ooh, I just like this movie's so good, and it's like actually really good to watch, and it's like, man, this is like a movie I could recommend to anybody. So yeah, this movie here, it's like a prison movie. It is set all in one place. You really don't get to see the outdoors, save like one little sequence. And when it happens, it actually has that kind of effect where you're like, oh, right, the outside world. It's not just like a room with 4 other dudes. And you can definitely feel the temptation of like maybe just getting out of that manhole cover and catching a cab and heading down the road to see the girl. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't take like really any notes watching this movie. I just sat down and watched it, and yeah, it's just so enjoyable. And like there's like sequences in this movie where it's like 4 minutes of continuous footage of like a guy digging, and that sounds boring. And you're kind of like, oh man, this would, depending on how the movie's made, this could really suck and really bring attention to itself. But like in this, because the rhythms are down and you're actually watching a struggle, you're actually watching like a calculated, like again, the procedure thing. Like you're watching someone actually get down to what they're having to do. There's like all these little shortcuts that the movie doesn't take, because sometimes what would happen is, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit. The movie starts with, again, Claude Gaspard. He's this young, well-kept, nice kid. Finds himself in a tough spot, so he says. He forgot about a lighter that he didn't hand over to the guards when he checked into the prison. While he's waiting for sentencing, I guess. And the warden, he's very impressed with this kid's like very nice demeanor and whatnot. He doesn't feel like the usual kind of scumbag that he deals with on a regular basis. And so he gets brought into a cell with 4 other guys. And I mean, if I had to go to prison, I would love to be cellmates with these guys. They seem real swell, wouldn't you say?
I think not just these guys. I think they're the image of prison in France is something to behold. It is so glamorous. It's so luxurious. It's the fanciest ass prison you ever seen. These dudes are eating fucking foie gras and like fine jams. They're like, ooh, have some jam, some goose liver. Spread it on toast if you want. They're just like hanging out in their cells, smoking cigarettes and eating goose liver on bread. Like,
but it's not one of those like
pretty fabulous.
Well, I mean,
but it's intentional, right?
They can't leave their cell.
No, they can't leave their cell. But I mean, like, okay, so I'm stepping in a little bit, but I think it paints this good picture for this movie as a whole, where it's like the life in the prison isn't that bad, and I think it helps to kind of set for the end of the movie when the lead makes the decision that he does. And we'll get there. Oh, yeah. But I think it's because it's like things like that where he's hanging out with these guys and they're kind of buddies. And even with the guards are pretty nice to them too. Like you get that scene where the plumbers steal their shit and they're like, hey, guard, can you bring those plumbers back? They stole our cigarettes. And the guard's like, yeah, shit, I'll bring them back. And then they beat up those dudes with like real stiff fucking like arms,
open hand slaps,
just back and forth beat like mandling those guys. That's a new word I made up, mandling. So it's like the guards are really nice to them. They have pretty wicked food, and the life there isn't that bad because they just hang out. Well, so I think it's because it's non-conventional, right? Like with what you would imagine. So I think it's very intentional in this movie for reasons that I can only guess.
Well, there's like, okay, so there's like kind of that disconnect, I think, because I don't know what 1950s France prison system is, because in this movie, it seems like this guy is like in jail. He's not in prison, which is like the difference of like when you're like in holding and like you're like in North America, you can be in jail for like several years before you actually are convicted of anything, and then you get sent to prison where you actually do your sentence, and usually you get like double time served or something like that for like the time that you were in jail, which doesn't make any sense, but that's the system. So in this movie, it's like you have these guys who are like, it seems like everyone's waiting, and they're like, fuck this, like I got too many years coming my way, we're just going to get out of here. And that's like one of those like kind of things that comes down whenever I think about the idea of like breaking out of jail, because it's like, how many times like do you hear about guys who break out of jail nowadays that wind up just going back to jail? Like, there's like, what do you do? Particularly like, I think it would be, I mean, back in like 1960, it would be probably a lot easier to stay out of jail than it is now, because what do you even do now? Like, you can't like do anything without money, and like all money's digital, and it's like, how do you even stay out? Like, you're gonna not last long, and like guys didn't last long in the 60s either. And then you hear about that like 1 in 100 guys that break out successfully and stay on the run for like 30 years. But it's like they live this life where they're always on the run. And now you have to like live with like this different type of stress of like being caught probably all your life and having to think about going back to jail, or you just do your time, then you live with the different type of stress and like horribleness of being imprisoned, which doesn't even go into the account of like, that's like, if you're wrongfully accused of something, prison's scary and shitty and unfair. Whereas if
Mhm.
you're guilty, it sucks still, but in most people's view, you belong there. But in movies, they sympathize with you. You're automatically kind of more sympathetic,
Yeah.
and it's an interesting thing. That's like, I mean, there's so many elements of the prison movie that are fascinating to me.
Mhm.
And like it's either you can go like super schlocky and make like a reform school girls type of movie, like talked about in the preamble.
Mhm.
Or you could have like the Shawshank Redemption, which is like you get like all the classic kind of things of like kind of like a man who's like, he kind of went into a blind rage and maybe didn't kill somebody, did, but he was justified kinda, but he's been put up for many years now, and now
Mhm.
he's getting raped. And
Oh, Jesus.
this movie doesn't have that element to it. It's like pretty well like, oh, there's like no like fear of sexual violence going on in this movie at all. I'm not sure when that becomes a trope in prison cinema,
Mhm.
because now it's like
I
pretty well,
think it's in Men in Black 3
yeah.
that hits really hard.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it's a whole thing about like, I think there's like a really great super montage on YouTube about like just
Mm.
protagonists telling like suspects or people being questioned that like they're going to run a train on you, buddy, in jail. It's like, and you're just like, ha ha ha, man rape. It's funny.
Mm.
Or you're going to get broomsticks run up you.
Maybe it was Deliverance that started it all. And
that great prison flick Deliverance.
well, no, I just mean like the idea of it, and then from there they're like, where can we? They're like, we already did the Bayou or the backcountry. Where can we increase more man on man?
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier about guys escaping prison. Remember those dudes like 4 years ago who like stole a helicopter out of the prison?
The Quebecois.
Yeah, did they ever get caught?
Yes.
Oh,
They all got caught. They're all those bikers. Yeah.
okay. Well, that makes that story way less interesting and not worth bringing up. But cool, still
was-
a cool
wow.
story. They stole a helicopter.
The ones that seem to be more successful. There's like that one where it was like 200 men escaped like a Mexican prison because of like cartel influence and stuff
Oh,
like that.
dude, that was season 3 of Prison Break.
Oh,
That was TV. That wasn't real life.
yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, where they go to the island prison where it's like gladiatorial battle.
Yeah, yeah, and the like guards are there with them too for some reason, and yeah, no, that's
for Prison Break. Jesus Christ. So, I'll talk about Prison Break real quick. Earlier on, we were talking about garbage TV. I loved Prison Break so much.
Man.
Like when I got those DVD box sets came out, I would mainline those like seasons, like episodes 1 through 22. I would watch every episode in a row in one sitting, and that's what I did with season 1, season 2.
That's worse than the Puppet Master incident.
Yeah,
it's chronicled in the Ghoul School special.
But Prison Break's actually like a pretty entertaining show, and Puppet Master is not entertainment.
Yeah, I guess that is a big difference.
Yeah.
Prison Break was good.
Yeah.
Puppet Master,
Yeah.
different story.
Okay, so bringing it back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gasper gets put in the cell with his cellies. Good guys, Gio, Roland, Manu, and Monseigneur. They all like, they see this kid roll in, and they're like, well, I mean, this is the problem with the Prison Break is like, well, we got another guy shunted on top of us. We're folding up all these cardboard boxes for some reason. Wink. And now we got to bring him in. Can we trust this kid? And they go in on him, and the kid's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, because they kind of also like say, hey, you're not getting out of here, you're going to get hard labor, which also says that like there's the other element of this story where like they're going to get transferred to a much tougher prison, and that's a different story. It could be a Brawl from Cell Block 99 type of situation for all we all know.
That's a good prison movie.
Yeah,
you want to talk about that instead of La Tra?
No, we're good. We can talk about all those prison movies if we want.
Okay.
So the big part of this movie is just how are they planning on escaping? Like, what is this? What is the breakout plan? And you see it all play out. It's like the movie's just a little over 2 hours long, and you basically spend most of it over the course of like, it's like 5 days. I think the movie takes place over. 3 of those are like the breakout, which is them coming up with this kind of elaborate plan where they have like stuffed cardboard boxes and pillows on a pulley system that's off a guy's leg with some rope to like make it look like there's two guys sleeping in the bed. So when there's the spot checks by the guards who peep in just through one little hole, they see that there's 5 guys in there, and they kind of wiggle around, make sure, hey, see, we're here. And then the 2 guys, the real guys, they have burrowed their way through the floor, and they have found their way down into the sewer system, and they're trying to make a break to get into the neighboring sewer system line in the city. That's what the movie is, and it's like it's the slow build, because you're just watching, like, there's no music. This movie has no score up until like the end credits. And yeah, so there's like this little beats of like the tension that builds, and there's like the one brilliant one that's, I guess, like spoiler territory, is the use of the toothbrush in the mirror. And we're like, you see this used throughout the entire movie, and it's just kind of like, well, how effective is that? Like, I guess it's like kind of like the clumsiest little thing where it's like a guard could just spy this weird little thing, and all it takes is a little bit of light catching that glass to create this weird little reflection, and the game is up. And they're like, what the fuck you got in there? And they're going to either find the hole, they're going to flip your cell, they're going to take away it, or they're going to like throw you in the hole when they find that you have like something you're not supposed to have. So it's like there's like this risk there, and you're like kind of like, oh, it's an interesting way of them watching it. It's like, well, that's a simple little thing, but then it pays off huge in this movie with like a real startling moment when it all comes crashing down, and the movie just fucking ramps up hard, and it's like, Jesus, like it's
awesome.
Yeah, you do not, and it's like, this is when what elevates this movie from being like pretty like a good movie, like this is a pretty great little prison movie, and then that scene hits, and it's like, holy shit, and it just keeps mounting and mounting, and you're like, where's this gonna pay off? Like, where does this go? Fuck, I'm feeling it. The loudness is picking up, the roar of the movie just and it hits, and then like you get this like total low key like conclusion that's like barely a finish, because you don't see what beyond it, but it's so good because of it. You get this like brutally poetic conclusion. You get one line that's like, what the hell? And it's like so good, because you're like, yeah, poor Claude. Yeah, this movie is dope. If you haven't picked up on that yet.
Is that what the kids say?
Yep, that's what I heard. That's what I heard downtown today. Kids talking about dope and how they get high and stuff like that when talking about good things. I don't know what they were talking about, but it sounded cool. Like this movie. Hey RJ, do you share in my enthusiasm of this here flick?
Yeah, I think Trou is super dope, or rad, as some of the other kids say.
Okay, I'll write that one down for next time.
Yeah, this was rad, or maybe rads with a Z even at the end. So this movie succeeds in many ways. It's awesome, man. So first and foremost, it's super entertaining, and like you said, there are always these long shots of like breaking through cement or filing through a bar or something, and they're 3-4 minutes long, and those things shouldn't be like entertaining and keep your attention, but they do.
It wouldn't be shot that way now at all. Like they'd be like an editor on a movie like this would be so afraid of losing people's interest that they would never ever allow scenes like sorry to interrupt, but like when people are just digging and digging and digging, you're watching, you're like kind of like waiting, when's the cut coming? When are they going to cut away from this guy like digging through this wall? And it doesn't come when it normally would. And then like when they like, you kind of have a feeling of like, okay, they've gotten as far as they can, and now they have to go back to their cell, and you just think they're going to make this cut from them finishing digging to them going back to their cell, but it's like, no, they actually play out them going back and forth to a point. Kind of building up like the suspense of like, well, you have to be quiet when you're moving through this, and you have to make sure you climb back up, and you have to put the pipe back into place and stuff like that. All those little things that just add to the situation.
Yeah, it's stuff like that, right? So like that's what I was getting at. So this thing it's a slow burn, and it really it lets it breathe. Like I think you've mentioned before for other things, they give it time to breathe. So just over 2 hours, and they show things that wouldn't typically be shown in movies, like these really prolonged shots of things that you shouldn't be important that you would see, because you're like, oh, people will figure it out, which is true. But I think it's way more effective here because it really helps build the tension, and it's just this thick kind of atmosphere the whole time, especially because, like you said, there's no music. And I think it really adds to the, like, not like dire, but like the seriousness of it, kind of, because it's just showing them like just do this one task with no music, and it's kind of building the tension and showing that there's, I don't want to say like the stakes, because I don't really like when people say that, but it shows that like what they're doing has, um I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like what they're doing means something, right? Because it's like, yeah, this is important. Like, you got to get this thing done now, because if you don't, it's all over. And like, there's, like you were saying with the little mirror on the toothbrush, one of the characters puts it in a really good point one way, where he's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, you don't even need to look through that. He's like, if anyone comes, we're fucked.
Yeah.
And I think that like shows. I think that line shows it better than anything else in this movie, because they're like worried about that, but the guy's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, if anyone were to come, we'd be done. So,
well, it's almost like it's something to do while they're in jail. Like they're waiting for something to happen, so they're this is like a busy job. It's like it's like a border collie that it needs to have a job, and it's like, maybe it's going to dig under the fence because it's bored, and it's imprisoned in your house and it wants out. And this is like, they don't think about, well, what do you do once you're out? Like, it's the whole thing is about just getting out to the street. And it's like, well, yeah, but then what? You're just going to catch a cab? And then
that's what they said they'll do.
But then what? Like, you have no, like, you probably don't have any money when you get out. Dine and dash on the cab, and then now the police are looking for a guy who's just cheated the cab, and they're like, hey, there's also been a jailbreak. It's probably the same person, and now like 10 times the resources are going to be down on you for doing both things. So it's like, yeah, there's that weird short-sightedness and absurdity of the situation of like escaping just cause, and like that cloud is going along with this plan. Because it's been suggested to him that maybe this is like the best option for you.
Yeah, no, exactly. So like, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like, I think this, the film craft in this fresh baked artisan cinema here, it's best at those moments, because they really let it breathe. It's a patient movie. It takes its time. It's got good pacing, and the way that they present stuff. There's no music. There's long shots, and it all adds to build this tension. And I think that's what kind of really excels it. But on top of that, this movie is just super entertaining. Like, the guys are really lovable. Like, when you're introduced to all of them, you're like, these are all likable guys. Like,
not
you don't,
one's going to rape anybody. Maybe Gio.
Maybe Gio, because he's always talking about it. There was actually one thing I thought was really funny. He's always asking that guy, he's like, is your wife like dirty? And he's like, ugh. And then he looks at the other guys and goes, he screws, which was the equivalent of what we have now, where people go, he fucks. It's like, that guy fucks. So this guy was saying it like 50 years ago, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
But no, they're all like likable guys, and you never find out what any of them did to get there, which I think is the right call, because that makes him more likable. Because he was like, I'm here for life, and it's like, what did you do? He's like, oh, I raped like all these people.
I'm on here a serious kitty raper beef.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, maybe you should stay here. I don't want you back out there. But they don't do that. So it's like, there's no reason to even to confuse the viewer and make them like feel complicated, where they're like, oh, should I root for this guy? Like, on the one hand, it's exciting to see him escape, but on the other hand, there's going to be so many raped guys once he gets out. Like, so they don't do that, and that's good. So it's entertaining in the sense, or they do the right call, where the guys are all likable. And then I think the dialogue is interesting for a lot of them, where some of the time it's just really plain stuff, where you're just like, my favorite was when the two guards come in the cellar, and the guy was like, yeah, her husband was a fur trader, but that's another trade that's just dead now. And I thought that was really, I really like that, because it's one of those Woody Allen moments where it's like, people are always pining for the past, but that's my Woody Allen. It's like, but things are always the same.
A real Midnight in Paris moment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, do you know what I mean? Like, the sentiment of it, where he's like, yeah, there's dying trades, and it's like, that'll never come back. Like, people talk about shit like that all the time, and it's like, they were doing it 60 years ago too. So, I like the dialogue and stuff like that, but the scenes that aren't the long shots, I think, are put together really well. So I really like the scene where the guard is going through the packages and he's got that knife on a rope and he's just cutting through everything into like quarters to make
Oh
sure
yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing hidden in it. I think that scene is shown really well because it's really simple and it just shows this guy cutting stuff and you're like, yeah, that's awesome. But there's a really confusing thing there where some guy gets like boiled eggs and the guard spins them. And I was like, why are you spinning those eggs? Like, what does that do?
Making sure they're hard boiled. I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? It's very weird. But yeah, I don't know. They do a lot of good stuff.
I guess the idea is that if there was any, I don't know, maybe they're like uncooked eggs and they were shaking them around to see if, if they were not hard boiled eggs, if they were rattle around. Maybe someone stuck something in there. I don't know. I'm not.
Maybe.
I don't have the criminal mind, I guess, for this sort of thing.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was really weird that he spun those eggs. But no, yeah, and then there's the things like that we already mentioned, that this is like the most luxurious fucking prison in the world, and it's unconventional because it's like, oh, that's not usually what you see, like you said.
It's a real club fed.
The threat of rape isn't there for all these guys, and you're like, oh man, it's not that bad, and like I said before, I think it kind of like not justifies, but like gives some weight to the decision made at the end, in the sense that it's just like. It's like that guy, he's on his way out, and his prison life isn't that bad. He's getting like smoked fish and fucking giant fucking sausages and fine cheeses and stuff like that and cigarettes.
But that prospect of doing it for 25 years, though.
Well, yeah, but like for him, you know.
And he's got that fine sister of the wifey shot.
That's right. That's right. Who does? Yeah, who hasn't been in that situation?
Yeah. All 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to stick around.
Yeah. So, gross. But anyways, so I was talking about like general things about the movie that I enjoyed, but I have a few, because I also didn't have a ton of notes, but I did have a few things that I thought were really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
The first was the two ladle double scoop. So when they're doing the soups, there's a guy walking by and he's got two pots and he's got a ladle on each, and he got in the same bucket. It's just one scoop from one scoop of the other.
Probably I'm assuming that's one's the broth and one's like the noodle or the.
That's what I thought too. But I just like seeing that because it's like it's the structure and the regiment of prison life, man.
Yeah.
I was like, I like those double scoops.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about the guys spinning.
There's the bit where like they're after they get their soup and they sit down, they start eating, and then like one guy's like, "Oh, I gotta go piss," and that's like, "Oh yeah." Now you just get to watch like this guy taking a piss in front of
corner.
You, and now you get to hear it, you get to smell it, watch it, and that's your life. You're gonna be watching other dudes taking a piss. It's such a subtle little thing, and you're like, "Well, that's not a big deal necessarily," but you're like, "No." That would get real old real fast.
A room with five guys?
Especially on the night where asparagus is in that soup.
I was thinking even the other way. They never they show the guy pissing, but they never show a guy dropping ass on that thing.
No one's taking their
dumping heavy.
They're sitting on that throne.
Which five guys, I would guarantee you once every 2 hours, one guy is going to be on that toilet.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee it.
Yeah, that doesn't come up.
Yeah, and so it's like they probably only give you like one roll of toilet paper a day, and I don't think I could share that with five other guys. So yeah, those parts of prison aren't as luxurious, I suppose.
No, sir.
But no, it's a good contrast. They show you the dudes eating the foie gras, and then they show you the dudes taking piss right beside the foie gras.
It's the sour with the sweet.
The sour with the sweet. Yeah, see, that's what people say about you and me.
That's right.
The sour with the sweet. But there's lots of good stuff in there that I like. Like when they're eating those things, there's a really nice scene where it's just all five of those guys and they're just eating and they're just sitting beside each other. And it doesn't go on for like 4 minutes. It's maybe 20 seconds. But I enjoyed it because like the four guys are sitting, eating, and then the rolling guys at the end just smoking. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really nice, quiet moment with these guys kind of hanging out. And I think that's what this movie is best. That's the best way to describe this movie. It's a lot of really nice kind of quiet moments that not in the literal sense, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all these things that are building towards this other thing. And I don't know. There's other good prison things like the messages, the packages that they send via rope.
Yeah, that's a really
outside.
fascinating. Yeah, I love the sound effect on that too. The
Yeah.
yeah, it's like so kind of like it borders on cartoonish, but it gets the point
Yep.
across well. And then that's followed up by like the fucking use of the thunderous sound of them hammering through the concrete. It is so amped up and like loud, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, and like it's sold well by Claude, who's like covering his ears because he's just like, it's just like the crushing fear of being caught. And, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's awesome, and they show that like the way that they present that is awesome too, because they do that package scene, and then the one guy like yells out to the other inmate, he's like, "Oh, the guards are coming, no more packages today," and the other inmate's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever," but then they just start wailing on the ground, and like you said, the guy's covering his ears because it's like, holy shit, that's got to be loud.
Yeah.
But it's covered up by the construction, which was actually something to mention too, because at one point in this movie, I was like, I don't know, maybe the one crux to this is that why don't they just wait until that guy leaves the cell? But they can't, because they're on time, because they got the boxes and they have the cover of construction at the same time to mask the sound.
Yeah.
It had to be done. So everything fits really nicely, where there's an explanation for why they do things the way that they do things.
Yeah, and then there's like kind of this like weird slow build up background thing where like the guy has sort of his like initial thing about the lighter being found on him, and the warden now he's like he's brought to the attention of the warden, and then like after he meets up with his main squeeze, he like absent-mindedly wanders off to the wrong cell that he was in before, and it's brilliant. Like it's so smart because you're like, yeah, like people could legitimately do that when they lose themselves, completely make an accident like that. But in jail, like the people like spaz out because they're such control freaks, and they're going to punish you for like making an innocent mistake. And then he's like, it's like again some attention from the warden. He's like, this is a good guy. I'm gonna see about helping this guy out. And then he gets special, and then it's like, oh, and then like right the day before they're going to break out, and Claude's like, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. I feel like I'm really like, I'm hanging out with dudes. I'm like, I have a job. I'm not just like rich and like doing nothing with my life. Like this is like finally like I'm working with my hands. I'm helping out my fellow man. And then, oh, you're free. And now he's like, shit, this is like way better than breaking out. What the fuck do I do? And he fucking squeals.
Yes, he does. And so, I mean, if you're listening to this, spoilers, but I mean, you probably know that. We've mentioned it a few times. I think, like, as you said, the payoff to that final, like the final scenes there is so good, because you get the payoff with the mirror. And then that creeping dread when the camera just cuts to him and he's kind of standing by himself, and you just see like fear in his face, and then the loudest screech comes out of him. Man, I just like, I had goosebumps at that scene. I was like, yeah. Well, this is why you watch movies.
Because the whole movie, you have the mirror on the toothbrush being flipped back and forth, and you never see anything that you don't expect. And then the whole movie builds to him flipping it over, and you see 30 guards all staring right at you because of the way the reflection works, and they're like at you, staring at you in the audience, and you go, oh, whoa, that's like, because you know like something's gonna happen, like what's gonna happen, and then there it is, and they're like, Jesus Christ, they're onto us, and the guy's like in the situation of like, oh crap, they know that I've ratted them out, and he starts screaming because he's like, "Jeez, they're gonna fucking kill me if you don't get in here." And you get that intention, and then the whole like cell block starts freaking out and just clamoring because they love shit happening to other people. Because what else do you do in jail? Men getting stripped down. Yeah. And then you keep thinking like, but it's just like the use of sound, the cacophony of everything, and you're just like waiting, and you're like, you get the shot of like not the warden, but like the supervisor on the floor, and you get kind of like that look of him where he's like, he looks at Claw and he's just like, geez, dude, man, like he's even disappointed in him, and then you get Roland's look. The guy who plays him, Jean Carrotti, he actually is not an actor. He's a non-professional actor, but he actually did attempt to break out of jail like 3 years earlier.
So I was kind of confused at the intro because I was like, because it's like, so are they saying that it was his story?
Yeah,
And then it's like, oh, so they
kinda.
just cast him in this because he knew about it?
Yeah.
But then the way that it ends, I was like, okay, wait. I was like, I'm confused. I didn't bother looking it up
So it's
because
based
I watched.
on.
Yeah,
This is-
I was like, I'll let Jarrett tell me.
Yeah, so it's based on a book from 1957, which is like kind of loosely based on a real prison break attempt in France at the time. That's about it. And this guy, I guess, was part of that attempt. And I guess at some point he got out and he's in a movie because that's France.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a criminal and turn into an actor. Who gives a shit? It's very Werner Herzog-ish.
Well, isn't that what happened with your buddy Roman Polanski?
Who I'll throw out the striking cinematography in this film. Ghislaine Cloquet. He also shot Mickey 1, which is like Warren Beatty movie that was like the early like Hollywood attempt at doing French new wave stuff. And it's like it's mostly just famous for like the way it's shot. One of my faves, Alcazar Balthazar, Robert Bresson's movie, and Tess, the Roman Polanski movie. That's also in the Criterion Collection.
See, it all comes back.
All comes back. Yeah, unless your director Jacques Becker, who died like shortly after finishing shooting this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never heard of this dude before ever. After I watched it, I was like, what else has this guy made?
Well, he's made
and then I was like,
I
oh,
think at least there's one.
nothing nice.
There's at least one other movie that is in the Criterion with Jean Gabin in it. But so yeah, I mean, but yeah, this movie's like quite nice, and of course, RJ, it's out of print. And because it's Studio Canal, I believe, who owns the rights to this, and when they pulled out of Criterion, they took all these deals with them, including this movie. So, yeah, you have to watch this. You got to go find an old DVD because who knows when it's ever going to come out in HD, which is too bad because this movie could probably use that a little bit of love and having a nice permanent version that people can watch, other than being like, "What's that, Le Trou?" And be like, what's that thing about? I'd heard about this movie like some years ago, like when I was looking up prison movies, and this movie's like so well regarded, and I was like, I gotta watch that one day. And here we are. It's very it kind of reminds me of like a William Friedkin movie in the best ways.
Yeah, I can see why you would say that. Like it's I don't know. I don't know what the essence of it is. That is kind of like a Friedkin. But when you said that, it was like
it's Man Times, like Wages of Fear, which is like Sorcerer, I guess. French Connection, Man. There's just like when you have all these masculine dudes doing man stuff and failing, and like, well, there's one scene like we didn't even talk about that's like super good too. Is when there's the cave in.
That's
you
good.
get the crazy dig for Roland has looking for I guess it's Geo, right? And like because when I was watching that scene, the lead up to it, I'm like, they don't have any bracing or scaffold like holding that like deep hole in place. Like that's a risk. And then sure enough, like 3 minutes later, I'm like, you get this like weird like sound. You're like, whoa, oh shit! And then you like start realizing like, oh man, are they going to kill him off? And you're like, wait, if they kill him off, they're not going to be able to explain where he went. And you're like, shit, like that, there's like so many ramifications. It's like, yeah, they have to find him alive. Otherwise, not only is the guy dead, but you're also caught, and whatever punishment you get for trying to break out of jail goes along with it. And you get that big hand grab. It's so good.
That big hand grab. I guess that's how you could summarize the entire Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
That big hand grab. Speaking of big, you know what? One other thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was
what?
When they're in the cellars and the guards come in and they have to hide too tall, and they move around the pillar on standing on the other guy's shoulders.
Yeah.
That scene is hilarious. I really enjoyed it. Did you not get enjoyment out of that?
I guess not, because I don't even really remember that bit.
It's like, okay, so the guards come in and they go to stamp in, and then they go on the side of the pillar, and then it's Roland and the other guy standing on his shoulders, and they shimmy around the pillar as the guards walk around. It's awesome. It's like Looney Tunes style stuff.
Well, you know, maybe I got an annoying text message at that very moment and was looking at that while that transpired. Damn it.
You missed it, man.
I guess I'll have to watch it again
was at
someday. Never.
54 minutes.
Cool.
I was going to get a screenshot for the Instagram. Yeah, someone's got to put stuff out on that Instagram.
Well, you know, hey, RJ, you know that, I don't know if you recall this, but Criterion does have a history with the prison movie, and even the Prison Break, because the very first film in the Criterion Collection, Grand Illusion, it's all about that prison break. but it's
Isn't
different.
that all about that great escape?
Yeah,
Prison Break?
sure is. So the very first movie in that Criterion Collection is all about that, and here we are once again. And there's a bunch of movies too that are prison movies. In fact, there's another great piece of prison breaking. A Man Escaped, the Robert Bresson movie. That movie is also fantastic, maybe even better than Trou. What else we got here? Brute Force, with Burt Lancaster. Don Siegel, hard-hitting, bit grimmer American affair. Birdman from Alcatraz is Criterion now too, I do believe, right? I think
Birdman from Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think.
Hey, isn't Grand Illusion while we're on the subject? Isn't that like season 4 of Prison Break?
No. What they're
when they're on the run
in World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some riot in Cell Block 11. Oh, maybe. Oh, you know what?
What about
No,
Brawl in Cell Block?
That's Don Siegel. Brute Force was Jules Dassin. That
Jules
fella who directed who directed Rafifi. Which this movie kind of has a Rafifi vibe to it, being French in black and white and being about man times and very procedural.
It does have a Rafifi vibe. I enjoyed this a lot more than Rafifi.
Yeah, I agree. This movie's.
So you were mentioning the first good movie we've seen in a long time. The last one we probably saw was 2.5 months ago with The Rock. And then I was looking through, and there were some good movies, but the last like really good movie I think we watched was Do the Right Thing, and that was 6 months ago.
Lady Eve was really good too.
Yeah, Lady Eve was really good too. But anyways, it's been a while, so
bit of a dry spell.
That's all it is on this fucking show.
Well, I think it's going to turn around here real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
almost. We
said it.
We're actually coming into the point in my Criterion Collection collecting where this was like I was buying Criterions when these movies actually were coming out because I had a disposable income. So this era is like when I have a weird nostalgia as being a consumer.
Disposable income. He just loves to rub it in my face.
That's right.
What a prick.
Well, RJ, it's not all smiles and sunshine because, I was really not looking forward to having to like just look at who hates this movie.
Is there anybody that hates this movie?
Well, yeah, there always is, RJ. There's always some turd sandwich coming along.
Chumps
who have a different opinion than us, or the wrong opinion. Let's see what we got
what did they
here. Keenan D, 1.5 star.
Come on.
Expected to find a hidden gem. Needless to say, I did not.
That is all Keenan G has to say.
D.
Keenan D. I'm a little bit behind here. Let me look up this Keenan D. Okay, so I'm there. Keenan D is pretentious. He's got some Buster Keaton movies in his favorite. Something called Santan Tango. A Man Escaped. You were just talking about that.
Hey.
Yeah, and The Gleaners.
Oh, wow. That is...
The Gleaners and I. Agnes Varda. God dang.
Yeah, that's
some of her stuff.
Keenan sounds like the poster child of the guy who you pants and then kick into the girls' washroom in junior high.
Yeah, the Jarrett Duncan of the world. But he also he only has like 6 5-star movies, and one of them is also Princess Mononoke. So that definitely was the kid in junior high that you pantsed and pushed into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Or out of the bathroom.
Yeah. Anyways, Monica. 2.5 stars in her March Around the World 2017. 10 highest rated films from each decade that I haven't seen. And she writes, I probably would have enjoyed this a fraction more in the cinema in a more focused atmosphere. It's a very artfully made film, and I understand the praise it gets, but I didn't enjoy it that much. I never really got into the characters, which I think is where this film lost me. I guess, I mean the characters are so broadly drawn that I guess you either are along for the ride, but so the actors, as mentioned, I think they were all most of them were non-professional actors. But I thought I didn't even know that going in watching this movie, and I thought they were pretty good. I was into it. I didn't. None of the I found that there was more kind of weird clunky acting in some of those drier movies we watched the last couple weeks than in this.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though about Monica, Jarrett. She's a Polish girl in her 30s. She's living in the UK. She's really into Bollywood. And wouldn't you know, she's writing her first screenplay right now. Some of her favorite films include Harry Potter 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, Die Hard, Cleo from 5 to 7. What? That's no one's favorite movie. Come on.
Wow, it's Agnes Varda back to back here.
Yeah, this is stuff I don't like this stuff, Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. We did get some dry type of film.
Yeah.
Some dry artisan film craft right there.
Yeah, crusty bread. S.J. Honeywell, 2.5 stars. Critics love this film, so why don't I? It tries to be Bresson and fails.
Yeah, you know what else this guy loves? Star Wars: The Last Jedi. 4 stars. Also in his favorite films, from your buddy GDT, The Devil's Backbone. From your buddy Alfred Hitchcock, North by Northwest. But then also your buddy Danny Boyle with 28 Days Later. And also your buddy George Lucas and Steven Spielberg with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah.
All people of the world.
Oh, he also gave Fight Club 5 stars.
There you go, folks.
That's all you need to know about this guy right here.
Yeah. But yeah, hell. This is a good movie, RJ.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was a good movie.
Yeah. Very good.
Real good.
Real good. Check it out. Find yourself a copy.
Try it out.
Yeah.
I watched it on Canopy.
Oh, it's on Canopy? Wink. What happens when I can't? What happens when I can't find it on Canopy?
Wink.
Lovely.
Check it out.
Lovely.
Maybe you could get it through an interlibrary loan.
That's right. Or turn your computer on.
Sure.
Okay. Any last words?
No. I like this movie.
No.
I don't know why they spun those eggs, but this was a good show. Yeah, no, it's like you said. It was nice to have a really good movie since we haven't had one for a while.
That's right.
So, and it was a surprise because neither of us have seen it, and I didn't know much about this Latra. So, what a nice little treat.
True.
Latra. Oh, pay.
After the break, I'm selling RJ down the river.
Which river?
The river of life.